And if you take things personally on some level, you agree with what the people are saying. So if we remember what we talk about agreements are, if you take it personally, you are reacting in a way of like, oh, this must be true. And also, this was the funny part. This like really, I guess, humbled me when I read this in the book that what causes us this is a quote from the book. What causes us to be trapped is what we call personal importance. Personal importance or taking things personally is the maximum expression of selfishness because we make the assumption that everything is about me. So if you take it personally, you are actually selfish. You're thinking about yourself. And this he also talks about, which I think is super important. I'm still trying to wrap my head around, is even positive. When someone says something positive about you and you take it personally, you're being selfish.
I know. I know. I struggle with that too. I'm like, really? But what if it's true? But that's what's so crazy about this, not taking things personally. And I know that I struggled with this so bad because there was a time in my life where I believed it was my fault, that it was my power that people were upset. Those that were around me who are grumpy, have anxiety, have a bad day, aren't performing well, that for some reason I was impacting them and it was my fault. Even if I tried to uplift them or motivate them or love them, that it was my fault that those around me were not succeeding. And that is taking things personally. And it is incredibly selfish. I mean, who am I to think that I can control those around me and I can impact them that much that their life is going down a bad road and it's my fault? I mean, release yourself from that prison, please. If you are like me and struggled with this agreement, then I encourage you to take this one and run with it and finally release yourself and stop taking things personally. You know, Welcome to the Be Your Own Life Coach podcast, where you master your mind and coach your own comeback. You are the hero, you are the guide, and you will learn to architect your life from the inside. I'm your host, Britannia Stowe, joined by my sister and co host, Annika Wilder. Enjoy the show. Happy New Year, folks. 2026 is here. In numerology, the year 2026 is a 1 year. This is the year of new beginnings, a time of rebirth and transformation. So it feels pretty timely to introduce one of my all-time favorite books, a book that has truly changed my life. The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz is a short book, but it's packed pretty intensely with the four agreements. They're easy enough to understand, but the concepts are truly life changing. The Toltec wisdom, if followed, will decrease your personal suffering and expand your personal freedom. I am so excited to be talking about the four agreements, Annika, and welcome back, my co-host, Annika Wilder.
Hello, thank you. I've missed being here, and I'm this is probably my current favorite topic of all time. I feel like The Four Agreements is a book that I will mention over and over and over. This is like it's like a Bible. Like I think people should read it every year, multiple times a year, because it's so rich with wisdom. It's not hard to read and it's short. And so I would love to tell you a little bit, the listeners, a little bit about who Don McGill, and I thought it was pronounced Reese. Is it Ruiz?
Oh my gosh, I probably should have looked at how to pronounce his name. Don't ask
It's
the
okay.
dyslexic girl. You probably know better than me.
I don't know. I don't speak Spanish, but basically, Don Miguel, well, I'm going to call him Reese. I don't know. Ruiz. I don't know. But he's a Mexican author and teacher. So he's born in the 50s and he comes from a family that grew up with like this ancient wisdom. They were healers. They learned traditional like spiritual ideas that are passed down from the Toltecs, which we will talk about what the Toltecs are in just a minute. But he actually ended up studying medicine and became a surgeon. So he was in the medical field for a while until he had a life-changing experience. And then he decided to go back to his roots and focus on teaching and writing about personal growth and awareness. And these teachings all come from the Toltecs. It's passed down from generations, like generations of time from ancient Mexico. So you hear a lot of ancient wisdom from, say, like like the Muslims have ancient wisdom, the Jews have ancient wisdom, the like Buddha and Hinduism, and there's ancient wisdom from all areas of the world. The Toltecs are the ancient wisdom from ancient Mexico. So this is a totally different region of the world that I had never been familiar with. And so when you told me about it, I wasn't ready to receive it, but when I finally read it, I was like, this is so cool. I had no idea I would be so interested in what the Toltecs had to teach from this region of the world. So Britannia, how do you define Toltec? Like how do we say what that is?
Yeah, so Toltec refers to the ancient Mesoamerican culture, and the Toltecs were a real civilization. Just like you had mentioned, this is the ancient civilization from Mexico, which is now known as Mexico, and they were around, I want to say like 900 to 1200 CE, or if you use the old, AD. They were known for their knowledge, their art and their culture, their architecture, and their spiritual traditions. Toltecs would all come together, and this is multiple ages. So children and parents and grandparents, student and teacher, they would all meet at a place, and I think this is so cool that it was known as where man becomes God. And they would share their wisdom up the line and down the line. So through the generations, they're sharing their wisdom. And this isn't a religion. A lot of people, I think, get a little intimidated when you share a Buddhist, quote or a Hindu philosophy and like, no, I'm Christian. I can't embrace that. But truth, and our father actually talked about this weekend. Truth is truth. No matter where it is found, it is true. And if it is true, it is gospel. And so this is not a religion. And if you are a Christian, if you're Jewish or Muslim, there is truth in the Toltec wisdom, and it doesn't need to contradict your beliefs. So, not a religion, but it is about embracing spirit. And it's more of a way of life.
hmm And Reese, the author, I'm gonna be so self-conscious about his name, but Reese, he said that Toltec actually means artist, which is so cool. So if you think about this, it's a way of to describe where you're coming from. So you're the artist of your life. You create your beliefs, your habits, your happiness. Wisdom is passed from teacher to student. So in the book, The Four Agreements, being a Toltec isn't about ethnicity. It's about living with awareness, self-mastery, personal freedom. So Toltec really means like if you become a Toltec, you are becoming someone who practices wisdom.
Ooh, so Annika, do you think you and I could claim that we're Toltec, or do we need a little bit more practice?
I think why not? Like, if we are practicing wisdom and we're following these teachings, you don't have to come from ancient Mexico. You don't have to be Hispanic, just like you don't have to be Buddhist or born in that region of the world to follow those types of teachings. This is just wisdom from one part of the world that I think anyone could follow. And it can be kind of like this fun little club, like, ooh, are you a Toltec? Me too. And so I really think anyone can. Anyone who takes charge of their life, who becomes their own life coach, who becomes their own artist, like you said, you're the architect of your own life. I think you can totally claim being a Toltec. I mean, why not?
I agree. I agree. And there's six, but we want to dive into the four agreements specifically. And before we dive into the four agreements, I think we need to explain a few concepts that will help make the agreements make a little more sense. So, everyone is a mirror. We are mirrors of each other. So, if I see, beauty in my sister Annika, it's because there's beauty within me as well. And everyone is made up of light. I believe that people are inherently good. And that's that concept. Everyone is made up of light. And our attention is our greatest resource. We talk about time and money, and those are great resources. But where we give our attention, whether it's intentionally or not, is our greatest resource. Our language, how we speak, is our code for our communication and for understanding. And our belief system, which we all have one, actually controls our life. You may have beliefs that you didn't choose, beliefs that have been given to you. And an agreement is a belief or rule that you have accepted as true. Whether it's true or not, we're going to get into that. But an agreement is a belief that you have accepted as true. And agreements are formed when an idea or a belief is presented and we agree to it. So that's why it's called an agreement.
Exactly. And these things can be passed down from your parents, your teachers, religion, culture, society. I mean, good friends. I mean, people in your life that are around you that say certain things. Maybe it's passed down from what they were taught, and then they introduce you to an idea, and then you consciously or subconsciously pick up this agreement where you said you believe that it's true. It's mostly unconscious. So you don't always realize that you've agreed with it until you've done a lot of work and subconscious work and kind of gone down that path of like, oh, I didn't realize I agreed with this belief system. But it's basically used by your mind to decide what's right, wrong, what's possible or impossible. It's a mechanism to help us to move through life to kind of give clarity, and it's like a system in place.
Yeah, and some examples of those agreements, like I know that I have a friend who has a son, and whenever you say hi to him, he, smiles and kind of tucks his shoulder in. And you might say, "Oh, he's shy." And she's like, "Don't say that. Don't say that he's shy." Because if you keep saying that, he's going to agree to it, and then he'll live his life believing that he is shy. Another example might be if I make a mistake, I'm a failure because maybe every time that you made a mistake, someone made you believe that you were no good and that you were a failure.
Or people will judge me if I speak up, or I have to make everyone happy. Or one that's really common is money doesn't grow on trees, or or people with money are bad, or there's so many types of phrases. If mama ain't happy, nobody's happy. you know,
We know
which
that one.
yeah, which, there's some truth to it and there's some comedy with it, but at the same time, like, are you really going to choose to be unhappy because your mom's choosing to be unhappy? Like that's not fair. And so there's these beliefs that are passed down a lot, I think, come from your childhood. And this is why it's super important for parents to step up their game and be careful of what they reveal to their kids, because from the age 0 to 18, this is your programming years. And this is where most of your agreements will be picked up.
Well, you're absolutely right. We didn't choose these agreements. I mentioned, my friend's son believing that he's shy because everyone says that he's shy. We copycat our parents, our teachers, our mentors. And as children, we don't know any different. We don't even know that we can think for ourselves, right? We are emulating what is being shown to us. And so these concepts are presented, and naturally we agree to them because, well, we want to please our parents, we want to please our teachers. And so it becomes your own personal gospel and a belief system that you choose to live by before you even know what you're agreeing to.
Yeah, exactly. Like it becomes your book of law. It's like how I mentioned before, it's like your Bible. I mean, I was saying the four agreements is like my Bible, but these belief systems are like your personal gospel. And anything that goes against it, anything that challenges your beliefs, those agreements that you have created over decades of time will cause fear because it's like ingrained in you. This is like in your DNA. So even when presented with new ideas, you'll deny them because they don't line up with your life's Bible, so to speak. So you punish yourself when you don't follow your book of agreements.
Yeah, you start to double down. And you see this with other people too when you present a new idea and you're like, "No, this is true. I even have facts to show it's true." And people are like, "No, that can't possibly be true." And arguing with someone who has a different belief system than you, they will actually believe what they believe even more, even when they're presented with truth that contradicts it. And so this is why we have a fear of being ourselves, because we built an image of ourself on the mirror of someone else. Even now, as a mom, I find that I will do things. I'm like, oh, that's how my mom does it. Here I am almost 40 years old and I'm still catching these glimpses of mirroring. And being your authentic self is the most important thing you can do. It is the most powerful transformational tool. These agreements will help you release agreements that you have made that no longer serve you. And by creating new agreements, you'll be able to be set free, which is what we're all seeking, right? This is where a lot of our misery comes from, is we're imprisoned and we don't even realize it. And this is why, as we go through today, the four agreements, I just encourage you to listen with curiosity and with courage, because some of what we might say today might trigger an agreement that you already have. And so please be curious and be courageous as we navigate this together.
Yeah, I'm super excited. So basically just to kind of sum up where we've come so far, because I think this is important because it's so profound, but also so simple that it's easy to get lost in the weeds. So basically, we have agreements that we accepted unconsciously, subconsciously throughout our life. These are becoming our belief system. The book, The Four Agreements, is basically suggesting to have these agreements as a rule for your life, and they might replace some agreements that no longer serve you. So these four agreements that we keep talking about and building up the suspense, I'm going to list them and then we will go through each agreement and why it's important and how powerful these can be. And they seem so simple, but if you truly live by these four agreements, it can absolutely change your life. It can change your relationships, how you work, how you show up for yourself, your self-esteem, all of it. So those four agreements are: number one, be impeccable with your word. Number two, don't take anything personally. Number three, don't make assumptions. And number four, always do your best.
Yes. Oh, okay. I know that I have a favorite out of all of these, but let's just start at the top and we'll move through them. So, being impeccable with your word. What the heck does that mean? Well, your word is how you create, it is how you manifest. Your word is powerful. Your word can hurt or your word can heal. I mean, look at, say, Tony Robbins or Mel Robbins or Brene Brown, right? These people who use their word to help transform their own lives and help other people transform their lives. And on the inverse, you have dictators and people like Adolf Hitler who used his word for his evil wishes and ended up killing millions of people. But it just started with his word.
It's powerful. There's a whole Man, this would be really good to share like in your community or social media. There's a powerful Toastmaster speech that talks about the power of words and how you can convince anybody of anything based off of the way you say things, but it's also what you say too. So if you speak with integrity, then you will show up with integrity. If you're lying all the time, then you will show up as a liar. You won't have as many trustful relationships. So, I mean, basically, it's so important to mean what you say and say what you mean and avoid using words to harm yourself or others. If you're saying, like, oh, I'm so stupid or I'm ugly, or, we know people in our lives that are always saying, like, oh, you're so beautiful, Britannia, but they don't think they're beautiful themselves. And they continue to make that agreement with themselves based off of their words. So, if you're being impeccable with your word, you're being precise with your language. You're watching what you say. You're being self aware of your words because most of our pain comes from what we say to ourselves. Like this, I will preach this till the day that I die because I'm such a power of positivity person. And this is so important that if you are speaking illy of yourself, then that will change how you view yourself, but it'll also change how others will view you. And then you will attract negativity in your life. You will attract bad things because of the thoughts and the words that you are saying to yourself.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you said it and broke it down that way because I think a lot of people don't realize that the words they use, even in joking, in jest, can make an impact. So, maybe I give someone a compliment and they give me a compliment back and I go, oh gosh, no, I'm not that pretty. And maybe I'm, just like being playful, but now I'm telling myself that I'm not pretty or I'm not that smart. Or you do something like you drop the drill. I don't know, you're screwing in something and you drop the drill and you're like, oh, I'm an idiot. Oh my gosh. Can you believe what you just said to yourself? You just said, I am an idiot, the powerful I am. And now you're going to believe it. And every time you do something, you drop it, you're going to be like, oh. And when things don't go right, it's like, well, because I'm an idiot, I couldn't do it. And you're really like building this agreement that you're not enough and that you're dumb or that you're not capable or you're not attractive. And on the inverse, maybe you're really good at talking well to yourself, but maybe you're pretty judgmental of others. Remember, other people are a mirror of you. So if you're going around going, "Oh, I'm smart and I'm pretty and that's great. You should talk well of yourself." But you're going around judging everyone else and you're saying they're fat, they're ugly, they're stupid. It is as if you are saying it to yourself.
I mean, projection is a real thing. People project their own beliefs, their own struggles onto other people. And so we need to, like, when you're impeccable with your word, this is you stopping your self-betrayal. Being impeccable with your word is being kind to yourself. Being impeccable with your word will counteract those who are not being impeccable with their word. When they speak hurtful words, you don't have to agree with them. And so this takes hypervigilance. It's not as simple as just speak positively because people are so unaware of their own thoughts and the way that they speak. It takes a lot of self-awareness. It takes people, good friends, trusted associates in your life to call out where you're not being impeccable with your word because it's hard. These things are subconscious. These things we are habit. We talk all the time. I mean, how do you speak to yourself when you're trying on clothes? Like, have you ever thought what your inner dialogue is? Do you pay attention to it? Or when you're doing work, or when you're working out, or when you're in the car? Do you have road rage like in your mind? Like what is going on if you are late to something? Are you beating your with your word is not just the words that you speak, but the thoughts that you think as well.
Yes, absolutely. And I just want to reiterate that when someone else is not impeccable with their word, you don't have to agree. So if someone's like, oh, well, Britannia's gullible, she'll believe anything, I don't have to accept that it's true. Or, Britannia is, she's a great mom, but she's not a great cook, or whatever it might. I don't have to accept that to be true. And if you are impeccable with your word, then when someone who is loose-lipped and is not as intentional and not impeccable with their word, you can counteract. You don't have to absorb or agree what other people say about you.
hmm And I would make it a goal for anybody listening to this that wants to adopt the Toltec wisdom of the four agreements is refuse to speak illy of yourself. Like refuse it. Just don't. I know it's not as easy. It's easier said than done, right? But I want everybody to refuse saying things to themselves that they would never say to other people because that will hurt society more than you think.
Yes. And that includes your children, your spouse, your inner circle. The way you talk to yourself is going to be reflected upon them as well. So, with that, I think we should dive into the number two agreement, which was the one that really impacted me. And I had not realized how much I had struggled with taking things personally until I read this book. So, agreement number two is don't take anything personally. What others say and do is a projection of their own reality, not yours. Remembering again that we are mirrors. And if you take things personally on some level, you're agreeing with what someone is saying to you. And you don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah, and if you take things personally on some level, you agree with what the people are saying. So if we remember what we talk about agreements are, if you take it personally, you are reacting in a way of like, oh, this must be true. And also, this was the funny part. This like really I guess, humbled me when I read this in the book, that what causes us, this is a quote from the book, what causes us to be trapped is what we call personal importance. Personal importance, or taking things personally, is the maximum expression of selfishness because we make the assumption that everything is about me. So if you take it personally, you are actually selfish. You're thinking about yourself. And this he also talks about, which I think is super important, I'm still trying to wrap my head around, is even positive. When someone says something positive about you and you take it personally, you're being selfish.
I know. I struggle with that too. I'm like, really? But what if it's true? But that's what's so crazy about this, not taking things personally. And I know that I struggled with this so bad because there was a time in my life where I believed it was my fault, that it was my power that people were upset. Those that were around me who are grumpy, have anxiety, have a bad day, aren't performing well, that for some reason I was impacting them and it was my fault. Even if I tried to uplift them or motivate them or love them, that it was my fault that those around me were not succeeding. And that is taking things personally. And it is incredibly selfish. I mean, who am I to think that I can control those around me and I can impact them that much that their life is going down a bad road and it's my fault? I mean, release yourself from that prison, please. If you are like me and struggled with this agreement, then I encourage you to take this one and run with it and finally release yourself and stop taking things personally. When someone says or does something to hurt your feelings, and we get hurt, right? Our feelings get hurt. We may be triggered in some way. It's hard not to take that personally. And I get that. But it's not because of what they said. It's because what they said is actually rubbing against an open wound that has not healed yet. And you are assigning meaning to what they're saying and making this association to the old wound. And what people say, it doesn't have to define you, yet we allow it to. So here, someone might say, oh gosh, Britannia's fat. And all of a sudden I have this old wound of being chubby and not feeling good enough. And then all of a sudden I'm now allowing this person to define me and I'm saying I am fat. I mean, you can see how this can spiral.
Hmm. Yeah, it's funny because I teach my kids a principle like this because they'll come home from school and they'll say, Mom, this person said this thing. And I said, well, and they were upset. And I said, well, is it true? They said, no, it's not true. I'm like, then why are you upset? Like, it's not true. Like, why are you agreeing with it? My analogy is if someone said, Britannia, like, oh, ew, you have blue hair, you'd be like, no, I don't. Like,
Like, okay.
you wouldn't get upset because it's not true. You would be
Mhm.
like, "Oh my gosh, they said I had blue hair," and you would take it all personally. You're like, simply, you'd be like, "Nope, I don't have blue hair. Like, I don't agree with that. It is not true." And it's the same thing with if somebody says something about you that's not true, it's coming from their own belief system, their own projections. You do not have to agree with them. Just because someone else says it doesn't mean it to be true. However, those emotional wounds you're talking about can be very revealing. If we do feel like we're taking it personally, if we do feel defensive in a situation, then maybe there is some work to do there. And maybe it's like, oh, this is touching something I didn't realize wasn't healed yet. And you could be
Mhm.
curious about it and courageous, like Britannia said in the beginning, and be like, wow, I am hurting here. I need to explore that so I can heal it, so I can then not take it personally later.
Hmm. Absolutely. I mean, I believe everything is a clue, right? And we're just trying to understand ourselves a little bit better. And so that's why this agreement allows us to be free from other people's moods and opinions and projections. One of the quotes from the book is, someone can intentionally send emotional poison, and if you don't take it personally, you will not eat it. Someone can say awful, awful things to you. And again, if you don't agree and you don't take it as truth, then it doesn't have to affect you. Now, life is a movie, but you are not just the star, even though you are. the star. You are not just the star. You are also the writer and the director and the producer and the best boy and the grip boy and all these things. You literally have the ability to take control of your life just by not taking things personally. It allows you to bring back the onus to you. And by taking accountability and responsibility and releasing accountability and responsibility that's not yours, you will start to reduce suffering immediately.
Mm-hmm. And just like if we can speak a little bit louder for those in the back, just because someone says something about you that feels true, it doesn't mean it is true. It doesn't mean it has to be true. It doesn't mean you have to take it personally. If you set yourself free from taking on other people's emotional poison, you will change your life significantly. Half of the arguments, or probably most of the arguments in my relationship, are when I take things personally. It hurts people. Instead of thinking about yourself, instead of being like, "Ow, this hurts, I'm taking it personally," think about the other person. But then also with that said, even our own opinions about ourselves don't have to be true. They're like our thoughts lie to us all the time. And so again, be open, be curious, be questioning. Don't take everything verbatim. Don't have to take it as a new agreement every time you hear something.
Yes. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And you may even hearing this, you may start to think and reflect on your childhood of some agreements that you used to have that maybe you've already grown out of, you've already evolved from. I remember not thinking I was very pretty when I was younger. And so I thought, okay, well, at least I can be kind and I can be smart. And then someone told me, well, you can't be, smart and pretty. So I was like, okay, then I'm definitely just going to be smart because I can't be pretty. And then later, when I started to have a little bit more confidence in how I looked, I started to believe that I was pretty, which was so crazy because then I started to think I was dumb. I thought, well, I can't be both. And isn't that funny that even as my agreements evolved from thinking that I wasn't pretty to I was pretty, there was still an old agreement saying that I couldn't be intelligent and attractive. And so I encourage you to look at your life thus far before trying to make a change and be aware of the changes that maybe you've already made.
Hmm. Again, the one is be impeccable with your word. Two, don't take anything personally. And now three is don't make assumptions. Now, this is something I do all the time. This is a cognitive distortion where you are jumping to conclusions. It's the same thing. You are assuming what people are thinking, what they're feeling. You're assuming that just because you have an argument, you're getting a divorce, or just because you fail in a transaction in your business, you are a failure. You're making assumptions that just because you're having a bad day, you're going to have a bad year. I mean, this goes throughout the entire course of your life. If you're making if you're making assumptions, you're jumping to conclusions and you don't actually know what the truth is and you're not being very present, and this is harmful to you and to the people around you, to your business, to your family. So number three, don't make assumptions.
Yeah, because we make assumptions and then we decide it's true. Instead of asking questions, we use our imagination to fill the gap. And most suffering comes from taking things personally and making assumptions. I mean, look at, your relationship and the last squabble that you had. I'm sure something was said, you took it personally, and you assumed they were trying to hurt you or cause ill or harm, right? So let's stop making assumptions. And assumptions are a way that our brain tries to make sense of the gaps, right? So our imagination will automatically trigger when we don't have the answer. And this happens as kids, right? When your imagination goes crazy, you want to know, where does, rain come from? And it just falls from the sky. Is there someone up there just, pouring water down? Is there someone controlling? And you allow your imagination to play, and that's great. We should allow our imagination to grow. But as you get older and we start to be less playful and curious, we start to assign meaning to these assumptions and assuming that someone might be trying to hurt you, assuming that what they said was true. So you want to find the courage to ask questions and to communicate clearly instead of assuming to create stories or to fill the gaps. I would say assuming is one of the biggest causes of anxiety in our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. It is for me. And it could be like little things too. Like just like there's a funny phrase, but it defines men and women so easily. So when women say, and I may have said this before, but when women say they have nothing to wear, it means they have nothing new. And when men say they have nothing to wear, it means they have nothing clean. And you're saying the exact same thing. And anyone in a relationship or anyone who knows men and women, they'll agree, like, oh my gosh, yeah, when women are in their closet full of clothes, like, I have nothing to wear. It's not that they don't have anything to wear, it's that they don't have anything new. And for men, they literally don't have anything to wear. Like they are looking in their closet and going, oh crap, I don't have underwear right now.
Yeah.
And but they're different. And so even on these little things, if we assume, if I'm talking to a man and he says, we have nothing to wear, and I assume that that means he has nothing new, then I'm going to start communicating down this path. Be like, well, let's go shopping. Let's go buy some clothes. Let's go get you some new stuff. And my husband might be like, no, I just need to do laundry. And this is a small example, but think of it on a big scale too. If we are assuming what people are saying and putting meaning to it, then you could possibly be misunderstanding their entire way of communication. It can create a lot of hiccups, misunderstanding, lack of love. It can create arguments. It can create havoc in your life by making assumptions. So instead, Britannia, I've learned this from you, be curious. Ask questions. There's no such thing as a dumb question. Ask instead of guessing, ask instead of assuming. We even make assumptions about ourselves. Like, ask questions. This is what Be Your Own Life Coach is all about, right? Asking questions.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think that we get into our head that, it's a dumb question. They should know, right? Or I should know. Like, oh, I can't ask. I can't ask what's wrong with my husband because as his wife, I should already know. How could you possibly know? Were you with your husband all day at work? You with him on the drive home? Do you know everything in his head? No, you can't read minds. It's unfair to assume that you know what's wrong. So if you are inquisitive, if you are concerned, ask and allow them to answer. Give them space to tell you what's going on. Now, if they don't want to be impeccable with their word and share, that's on them. But you want to allow the space to ask questions instead of filling the gaps. And this will truly change your relationships, your work, and of course, your self-improvement.
Absolutely. Number four of the four agreements is always do your best. And this really is just doing those first three agreements over and over and over. So number four, it's kind of it's its own agreement, but it's also just reminding you to keep doing those first three agreements.
Yeah. When I think of this, I always think of, when we were younger, remember how we came up with little nicknames for ourselves? Like I was a favorite and you were perfect and Johanna was the best.
hmm
I love that word, best, because we can't always show up as perfect. You can't always do it the exact same way, but what you can always do is give it your all. And your best may look different today than it did yesterday and how it'll look tomorrow. Because your best changes from moment to moment. We're honoring our effort instead of perfection. And if you do less than your best, this is where self-loathing and bad speak comes into play. But if you do your best, if you focus on the effort, this is where you feel accomplished. This is where you allow yourself to build some confidence and you can actually build healthier agreements. I really believe this is more of a self-compassion in action.
Yeah, it's in the doing, the action that brings us joy, allowing us to live more fully, releasing yourself from expectation of reward or the outcome. I mean, I heard recently, like, hey, if you do your best, does that mean you still fail? And yeah, you can still fail. but it won't hurt as much if you are putting your best foot forward. But if you're not doing your best, then that's where like that self-loathing comes in, and that's where you start making assumptions about yourself. That's where you start taking things personally. And that's where you're not being impeccable with your word because you're getting down on yourself by not showing up fully. So every day show up your best, but what your best is today might be different from your best yesterday, or what your best will be tomorrow. What is your best today?
Yeah. Well, and this is, something that I thought about during my weight loss journey. And I remember that if I, made an effort not to, overeat and to go to the gym, every day I would look in the mirror and I'd be like, wow, I look so good. But that doesn't mean I had lost weight. It was the effort. I could literally see the effort reflecting back upon me. But when I, decided to eat 12 blueberry muffins and a whole nother bowl of batter and not work out and not treat myself very nicely, then I noticed that I didn't look as good in the mirror. And I say this because it is really in the effort, whether it is losing weight, whether it's about personal transformation, whether it's about showing up in your relationships. It is the effort. It is separating from the outcome. The outcome will come when it's time, but allow yourself to show up as your best self today and every day. It's about the process. It reminds me a lot when we were younger and, mom would say, empty the dishwasher and be like, fine. And we're like opening up the rack loudly and shoving plates in there and we're making all this noise. And mom would be like, do it with love. Empty the dishwasher, load the dishwasher with love. And I think what mom was trying to teach us is just do your best. In that moment, I get it. It's loading and emptying the dishwasher. But if you show up as your best self, loading and emptying the dishwasher, the experience will be different. And I believe you can actually fall in love with the process and it will allow you to be more present instead of focusing on, I got to get this done. Allow yourself to almost find this like meditative place by being your best in all that you do.
And by doing your best, you'll be able to live the other agreements more fully. And you'll be able to master this transformation, this being more self-aware, like showing up intentionally with the attitude of like, I'm going to do my best today. And your best is going to be different than Sally Joe's down the street. Like they are probably faster, smarter, prettier, skinnier, but comparing yourself's not going to help. Like their best is different. And you
Yeah.
know what's funny is Sally Joe down the street thinks all those same things about you. They think that you're better, you're faster, you're prettier, you're skinnier, you're better in whatever ways. Everyone is so consumed with comparing themselves to other people's bests. My default is comparing myself, like in my real estate career. I've only been in a real estate agent for 2.5 years, and I have been comparing myself to people who have been doing it for 30 years and thinking I'm not as good as them. And people are like, why would you compare yourself to somebody else's best? They have way more experience than you. Their best is going to be different. You can't compare, as a woman, you can't compare yourself to a man. Men produce testosterone every single day, giving them more motivation, more energy than women. Women need rest. We cannot compare ourselves to other people's best.
Well said. And if you allow yourself to show up as your best self, like Annika said, this will allow you to embrace the other agreements more fully. And you'll be able to not just experience more joy and more love, but you will master your self transformation. So, in today's Coach Yourself segment, I encourage you to find one of the four agreements and make an agreement with yourself. So, first, start with awareness, right? We can't change anything if we're not aware of it. So, to become free, we must first recognize we are imprisoned. What are the old agreements that we have in place? So, maybe already in the episode, you thought about the ones you've already overcome from your childhood, but what are some that are still in place today? We make agreements so that we can be accepted, so we can please others and fit in. Release yourself from that. You don't need to fit in. You don't need to please anyone. You're already accepted by yourself. You don't need to alter yourself. Be who you are, be authentic to yourself. So, which false agreement is keeping you from being authentic? And then allow yourself to ask questions when something does happen, right? So, maybe your husband is mad, a coworker, yells at you, or someone cuts you off. Allow yourself to actually stop and ask some questions. What exactly happened? What are the facts here? Right? We're not going to assume. What feelings came up and what meaning did I assign to it? Right? We're not going to take things personally. If it wasn't about me, then what else could be true? And allow yourself to be courageous and curious as you start to ask yourself some of these questions.
And choose. I think everybody should live all four of these agreements. I don't think it's too hard for anyone to start implementing it right now. But the first thing you could do if four is too much is just choose one agreement and allow it to be your mantra for the week. So for me, like agreement two, don't take anything personally. You could write it on a sticky note, put it on your mirror, remind yourself, put it in your on your dashboard, at work, wherever you are, like on your phone. Like you could put it even like go on Canva, make a cute little thing that says "Don't take anything personally." Put it as your background on your phone because we know you look at your phone 1,000 times a day. So let's look at your phone with intention and don't take it personally. Fill your mind with those words. Something I do with my son when he gets distracted, when I ask him, like, go get your pajamas on, and 20 minutes goes by and he's playing with Legos. I'm like, why didn't you do this? And he's like, well, I got distracted. We do this too. He's a reflection of all of us. We get distracted. So something that I've implemented with him is I want you to repeat in your mind over and over and over, pajamas, 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 until you get it done. And it's the same thing with one of these mantras. I want you to commit, like, I am going to take one of these agreements. Let's just say I'm not going to take anything personally, and I'm going to repeat it over and over and over and over until I write it down so I can look at it more, until I remember it and it becomes habit. But I want you to like say to yourself over and over and over as you're showering, as you're getting dressed, as you're driving, don't take anything personally. Don't take anything personally. Because we have so many thoughts we're not even aware of. We need to replace them with the positive. We need to replace with new agreements, and repetition will do that. So make sure you see it every day. And then after the week, journal about how you showed up differently. Use your voice memo in your phone or write notes in your phone. I mean, you have your phone with you. So share the truth with a friend, a partner, or a family member, because when you teach it, it will become more instilled in you. So these are just practical things you can do is repetition, writing it down, teaching other people to help you implement a new agreement today.
And get the book. It's like $8 on Amazon. It is an easy read. You can probably even find it at a secondhand store. Seek truth, embody truth, and share truth. The four agreements have been one of the most impactful pieces of truth and wisdom that I have come across. And I know Annika agrees with me. I know if you apply the teachings, you will experience more joy, more love, and more personal freedom that will release you from old habits, outdated agreements, and false beliefs. We only need to be a couple of steps ahead to lead the way. And your newfound enlightenment and growth from following these four agreements may just be the light needed for another to find their way. This has been another episode of the Be Your Own Life Coach podcast. If you found value in today's conversation, subscribe and share the love. And remember the teachings of Lao Tzu. When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. Until next time, trust yourself, take the wisdom, take the breath, and take the next step.